So what is Musharakah? Musharakah is an Islamic mode of financing, which unlike usury or interest-based financing, is based on profit and loss sharing. So before we understand Musharakah, first let's understand the word shirka. The Arabic word shirka means sharing, and there are two kinds of sharing in Islamic fiqh. The first is shirkatul milk, and the second is shirkatul aqd. Shirkatul milk meaning property, that could result from two things basically. Firstly is that you and let's say your friend jointly buy some property. Let's say you jointly bought a machine or a car, so you become a part ownership, so you both are partial owners of that particular product. And the second form of shirkatul milk is through heredity, like children inherit properties of their father, right? And that is like a form of compulsory ownership. Like when the father passes away, the children automatically become owners of the property. And the second is shirkatul aqd. So the first was shirkatul milk, where there are two kinds. One is when the person or a group of people together buy a product that may or may not be for commercial use, and the second is by inheritance. And the second form of shirka is shirkatul aqd. This is where musharakah comes in. Okay, so this is basically of three types. Okay, first type of shirkatul aqd is shirkatul amwal. Amwal comes from the word mal, which means wealth. So when a group of people coming together and investing their money in a business venture in hope for a financial gain is basically shirkatul amwal. And then there is shirkatul amal, where a group of people come together again in a joint business venture for hope of a profit, and they don't contribute their wealth, rather they contribute by action. They contribute by action. What does that mean? For example, you open a tailor's shop, you sew clothes, so someone might say, okay, I'll go to the market, I'll get the cloth. Someone will say, okay, I'll take the measurements, and someone will say, I'll do this, and someone else will do that. So they are participating physically by doing some physical work. That is shirkatul amal, which amal means action in Arabic. And again, of course, there can be a combination, which is mostly the case, a combination of shirkatul amwal and shirkatul amal, where some people contribute money and others contribute by action, and some people contribute by both action and by money. The third kind of shirkatul aqd is shirkatul wujuh, where a group of people buy some products on credit, on a deferred price, then they sell it at a gain, and then they pay back the credit and keep the profit. For example, they bought potatoes or bananas or any other crop for, let's say, $100 on credit. They did not make payments for it yet, and then they took it and sold it in the market for $130. They paid back the $100. They're left with $30, $15 to one partner, $15 to the other partner. This is the third kind of shirka called shirkatul wujuh. So this, in a very simplified manner, is how musharakah works. So of course it is an Islamic contract, so all the rules of Islamic contract have to be present here, which includes that all the parties have to willingly come together, and nothing should go against the basic principles of Islam. It's not just about usury, rather other code and conduct of the business should also be carried on in accordance to the Sharia. And now let's talk about the distribution of profit. Now, in terms of distribution of profit, when it comes to musharakah or shirkatul aqd, as we can say, of various kinds, there is a difference of opinion. Some scholars, like the Shafi'i scholars, they say that the profit has to be exactly in ratio of their investment. So for example, if someone invested 40% in a business, and someone invested 10%, and someone invested 50%, so when the final profit is incurred, when you gain the final profit, when that bottom line is achieved, so the one who invested 40% will get 40% of the profit. One who invested 10% of the profit, 10% of the initial investment will get 10% of the profit, so on and so forth. Of course, in no case can a lump sum money, a fixed amount, can be attributed to any partner. No one can say, okay, no matter what the profit is or no matter what the loss is, I'm going to take, let's say, $500 and then we'll see what the profit and the loss is. No. You cannot have a fixed amount of return. It has to be based on percentage. It has to be based on percentage of the actual profit incurred by the business. So some scholars, as I said, say that it has to be exactly in the proportion of their investment. But other scholars, like Imam Ahmad, they say no, if the partners willingly agree to have a different proportion of return, then it is okay, it is jaiz, it's halal to have a different proportion of return. For example, a person who invested 40% can get 30% of the profit, or can get 50% of the profit, or 60% of the profit, provided he and others at the time of the agreement, at the time of beginning the contract of Musharakah, they all willingly agreed to it. Now, a more balanced view is provided by Imam Abu Hanifa, who says that the profit that a person gets can be more than or less than his or her investment if all the participants willingly agree. But if the partner is a sleeping partner, which means if he has just invested in monetary terms and is not contributing physically or in any other way to the business, then in that case he cannot claim profit which is more than the share of his investment. So if he invested 40% and he did not contribute to the business in any other way, then he cannot in any way get more than 40%. He may get less than 40% if agreed upon, but he cannot get more than 40%. So that is the distribution of profit. In terms of distribution of loss, now the distribution of loss is in fact different than distribution of profit. When it comes to distribution of loss, all scholars agree, there's an ijma, that the loss will be distributed in the ratio of the investment. So if someone invested 30%, the loss they incur will be 30%. If someone invested 50%, the loss they incur will be 50%. Now let's talk about termination of Musharakah. Any one of the partners with now let's talk about the termination. Now let's talk about the termination of Musharakah without closing the business which is going on. If any one of the partners in a Musharakah want to leave or want to get out of his position in the Musharakah business, then he can give a notice to the rest of the partners, and what they can do is they can purchase his share, and he can leave the agreement by selling his share of the business, and the business can continue as usual. Or he can sell his share either to the existing partners or to someone else. So this is in very short what Musharakah is. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section below.